Yo, how's it going? So, here I am, and welcome to the first episode of FFTCG Deck Stage. So, in this, I have your decks that you sent to me through what will be a link in the description of every video, and I'm going to go over decks and try to help people build as good a decks as possible, kind of give deck building advice, and kind of walk through different ideas about how to improve different decks. And had a lot of great feedback. I have 8 decks on the sheet. I'm going to get through probably 4 or 5 of them today. So let's start off with the person who has no name because they got it in on the sheet before I realized I had to make that mandatory. The deck type, they call this an FF4 starter Cecil title. They're qualified for Nats. They just want opinions. They think this deck is mostly for fun, but like they want to see how good they can make it. They think it's like tier 2.5-ish. So let's take a look and see what we're looking at here. So we have, looks like kind of a crystal 4 wind water package with like enough lightning to play O, Edge, Zemus, Shadow Dragon, and Golbez's. Okay, so I think there's a lot of potential here, but I think we're kind of stretching ourselves in 2 different directions. So obviously the 3 Shadow Dragon are really, really nice, as are the O. But Edge, Edge has a great special, but we're still conflicting our name here, and this Edge doesn't have a good enough name where I really want to go out of my way to play it. I've played a lot of this Edge in Archfiends, and usually his main goal was just having enough lightning CP to warp a Golbez. So I don't know how much stock I really put in the lightning side of this. Like Zemus is really good as well. This card always impressed me in Archfiends, but I've kind of always found O to feel more kind of win more when you're pairing it with something like the Glaciella. I feel like a lot of times we have to go Sarah for Princess Sarah to clear lightning and still have to draw like our Sid Paladina or our Rosa to have our wind backups with the way this deck is currently constructed. And the other issue that I see that I don't love is I really think that we're kind of in a weird spot for our crystal payoffs. We have only really Cecil and Glaciella to generate our crystals. I think if we're going to go for this Cecil, which I don't think is a bad play. First of all, I don't like playing both a light and a dark in the same deck. I know that this Golbez can not stick to the field, but if he doesn't, it's kind of like paying 5 CP to put this Shadow Dragon in play from the break zone and get like a character back. I just don't love how that feels. I think this Golbez is just a little bit overcosted for what he is in this situation. If you don't have like a the place I like this Golbez is in a deck that can revive him. So things that's playing like 5 CP Rydia backup or the Regis, the Earth Lightning Regis. I don't think he really fits in this deck if we're trying to run the starter Cecil as well. I do like our Sid Palandina at 3. The hardest thing about this deck and figuring things out, we have the Rosa, the Porum, and the Leonora, right? But Porum is such a critical name for these decks. Like every single Porum card is so good, and like the backup is fine. But we are going to run into an issue now where we're cutting off Rosa, which is a name that pairs very well with both our Cecils, with the new Rosa. We're cutting off our Porum name, and that doesn't feel amazing. So I feel like the directions we can take this, I think I would either like to cut the light Cecil here and the Dark Golbez and focus a lot more on the Crystal Gen package. Add like a Spiritus and all the Crystal Gen backups alongside the Ceramobius to try to use that to flick through the deck real quick. And use that with advantage generating cards like the Atomos. And probably cut the Lightning altogether. I don't really think it adds enough for us to be bricking on it. Like 14 Lightning cards. If you think about it, the first one that comes down is going to cost a Lightning card in hand unless we're using our Sarah for it. It's kind of like we only have 12 after our first backup goes into play, and our only backups that can do it are the Zemus and the Sarah. I just kind of don't love that ratio for O, who doesn't really do much over Glaciella. Like, we could go cut the O, add in 2 copies of Dario, and we could cut the edges altogether and just let Edge, Cecil be its own thing. It does mean we lose access to Golbez and Shadow Dragon, but I think we're okay with that. We can kind of focus on some more consistency cards. I don't hate putting Rosa backup in just because it does, like, having backups for um, Hooded Man and Theodore is nice, but these do only activate your 4 forwards. So I wouldn't mind getting like a Porum forward, adding like a Lena in here as well. So let's go ahead and make some of these edits that I would make. So I think I would cut the lightning altogether. I'd cut that for sure. So I'm going to say our Glaciella and such are probably our big cards here. So we're going to go with Dario to replace our O. Princess Sarah gets awkward if we want to run the Spiritus. So let's stick with the Cecil for now. I am going to go with the forward Porum instead, though. Just because I'm a big believer in what this card brings to the table here. It means we are going to have to supplement our backups a little bit, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with putting a Rosa to there. 3 Theodore, 3 Hooded Man. It's a little high on those. Usually I run like 2 Theodore, but I'm okay with it here. We have our Edge. Let's go to 3 Porum Legend. I'm going to go down 1 copy of the Leonora. Let's bump our Atomos and our Chocobo count a little bit. This puts us at 39. So let's add some 2 Oracle, 2 Dragoons. Try to get that up a little bit. 1 copy of Materia. So we can kind of try to use this as a way of spending our crystals profitably. I'd like this to be Spiritus, but we can't do that with this Cecil, unfortunately. Let's see. Where are we going from here? We've got all of our 4 stuff. Let's add 1 copy of Sarah Mobius to kind of try to flicker through our backups real quick. Sid Polendina's fine there. I think that's our only win backups are Rosa and Sid Polendina. That are Cat 4. And it's kind of a weird one, but I kind of like 1 copy of the Cagnazzo, which is another 2 CP target. Crystal Gem Lena is actually going to be pretty solid here. Can revive the Glaciella and the Porum. And we have 2 slots left. Let's go ahead and bump that summon count a little bit with 1 copy of Chocobo. And let's go for 1 copy of Fat Chocobo wouldn't be horrible. Also wouldn't mind just adding a big levy to return some of our stuff to hand as protection. I'm not super huge on playing multiple Cecils, but I think it makes enough sense in this list that I'm okay with it. You can kind of start with this Cecil and then transition to this one late game. But in that situation, I do want a way to get that out of hand. So let's add a copy of Poo Poo. Let's go like actually just down there up to 2 Poo Poos so we can get these Cecils out of our hand if they're just not worth it. I think this looks reasonable enough. It's a little bit different. We're kind of losing the lightning package, and we're going to be down a little bit on some of our forward names. If you really wanted to, you could swap this Rosa for the forward Rosa. That would allow you to play the Palom. Or Paloms, you could play stuff like the... you could play a Golbez at that point. But I think this looks about where I'd want to play the deck if it was just me. I think that the ceiling on this deck seems a little low, but I do think it feels like it would be pretty recursive. And again, if you can get the Cecil online with Hooded Man and Theodore, you do get a little out of hand quickly. Okay, next deck we have Italian Tifa. admittedly, I don't know that I know more about Tifa than the Italians, but this is sent in by It's Mikey. They have been to Materia Cup. They said it's a bit slow, they're concerned about aggro, and this is for locals, but they want to take it somewhat seriously. So, being completely honest, I don't think this is just slow. I think this has basically, this is all engine. But the problem I have with a deck like this is that it doesn't represent a threat outside of the Y'shtola, right? Like we have, or the Tifa. So our opponent's kind of free to do whatever as long as they get to their game plan before we assemble the combo, which I don't think is where you want to be with 13 and 6 running around, because they will never let you get to where we are. So the concept here is pretty simple. We're using the Moogles to get No-No into play, and we're going to go get like Moogle FFCC to make sure we can cast our fire cards, I guess, and use those. I'm going to be honest, I don't even think we need any of the fire in this list, so I think the Moogle FFCC is kind of baiting us into a bad direction. So let's take a look here. Let's see. So I'm going to open this in our deck editor. We have the 3 Bosch. I'm going to try to cut the fire out entirely. We had so few fire cards, we're relying on this Moogle to do our thing. And we have the 3 Azuras. We can get the Tifas back late game if we need it, right? So let's do those. Let's get some kind of faster backups in here. In that situation, we're probably cutting our Moogle brothers as well. More than okay with Stiltskin. I do think we can cut down on the Spy Sicilian to 1 and make this our primary Stiltskin searcher. Let's go down a copy on Zoo. Unsag, I like it 3. We're trying to protect our Tifa. That makes sense because we don't guarantee the haste on her. Atomos, I don't think needs to be at 2. Cerberus, I don't think handles aggro for us at all, and we can't flicker it. So I'm actually going to cut that out entirely, which we've gone down quite a bit on our shell, but I think we have some really interesting plays we can make here. So, another concern I have with this is with Chocobo Chick and Azura. Azura is great because it's also going to get us back our Tifa, right? I'm actually completely okay with Azura. But I think Chocobo Chick, the idea is that we're supposed to attack with Tifa a bunch and use Chocobo Chick to activate our backups. But because Tifa's discarding 2 from hand on entry, I actually don't like that as much as just focusing on the Zeus. I'm going to cut the Chocobo Chicks out as well. So we have the 3 Unsag, 2 Atomos, 3 Zoo, 1 Spicillion to search with our Stiltskin. I'm going to go down to 2 No-No. Alright, so here is our engine. So we need to find cards that allow us to be consistent, but also to represent an early threat. And I think this is a poster child for a pretty simple engine, actually. I think this gives us that defensive flexibility. We just need Cecil plus anything. And Cecil's also great to have on field when we have our Tifa, right? So we feel pretty good about that. We are going to need some more backups. Let's go ahead and get the best Wind Moogle by getting 3 of Moogle 11. And we need to get some Earth backups so we can play our Tifas onto the field, right? I'd like to go for like a Tyro. And let's punish our opponent for not respecting us with at least 1 copy of Shantoto. Let's go to 2 Shantoto, actually. Why not? Let's add... well, like 1 more Earth backup. Earth EX's backups are not amazing. Let's add a Kryl, because it can get back either our summons or the Galif. Kind of like that. That gets us to 15 backups. We have our 15 forwards. You could play Retainers instead of the Cecil Warrior of Light Galif, but I think I'm okay with this here. Actually really like Genova Dreamweaver as well as a way to kind of play defense. Again, Genova Dreamweaver is just a forward you can kind of have sit there early. And if your opponent ever just overcommits, you just pay one, swing the Genova Dreamweaver, and then kind of cleave the board for a bunch of damage. I think that seems pretty decent. And that leaves 2 more utility slots. Let's go 2 Kusith in. And I just realized I want to add a way to give our Tifa's haste. So let's go there. Let's go down a copy of Galif. We're going to go down 1 on our Atomos. I don't really think we're going to be casting a bunch of cards in a turn. And I got to go down 1 more card. Let's go down the Shantota by 1. There we go. This should be resilient against aggro. So our opponent really can't do it. Then we have the ability to go Tifa, swing in for game. Azura with Warrior of Light. It's going to allow us to go for lethal. Spice Sicilian also. We could just kind of cast it early, get it there. We have the Azura to get it back if our opponent's on Monster Hate. You could bump this to 2 and cut like an Unsog if you wanted to. Something like that would be okay as well. But I think this seems a lot more resilient. We're just trying to make it hard for our opponent to play the game until we get 5 backups with Tifa Barts. I think this gives us the best chance at that. I hope that helps out with your deck. Let's see where we're at on time. It's 16 minutes. Let's go on to the next one. So this is from Tin. This is a Crystal Chronicles Tribal Wind Earth. It says, I've been to Materia Cup, want to compete seriously. The comment is, can I fit Neo X Death? And it's for locals, but I'd like to take it somewhat seriously. If your question is, can I fit Neo X Death? The answer is almost certainly yes. So let's take a look here. So we're on, this is kind of like a Yuri Chilinka deck featuring quite a bit of interesting stuff. So we've got our Tifa, we've got our 3 Beldats. So we've got to have a Tyro and a Shantota in there to make sure that we can actually cast stuff we're stealing with Beldat. I don't hate that at all. We've got our Chilinka, we've got our Yuri, both at 3. We're on this Yuri, we're not on the untargetable one. We want to have, our game plan is this Chilinka. We want to be doing party attacks with Chilinka Yuri. It's kind of the game plan. Okay. Let me see what we're working with here. 3 Genova Dreamweaver, so we're on that as our anti-aggression tool. Try to slow our game state down a little bit. Let's go ahead, let's look at some edits here. I'm not a huge fan of 3 Leo. It's searchable a lot of different ways. Let's put Leo to 2. We're going to drop the Fiona down by 1. We're going to have a lot of backups here, but Claris is looking really nice. We have a lot of kings. I'm actually going to even drop our Epitaph to 1. So we have kind of a full engine there. Let's also drop the Stiltskin. Like, our only targets are Evray and Tifa. So I'm not super excited to get either of those, I don't think. That puts me down to 15, which is about where I want to be on backups, I feel like. Oh, actually, for our Stiltskin, let's not run that one. Let's run the new Stiltskin. It's a little bit cheaper, gets us another even cost backup. And getting these to 9k and actually 10k with Leo is, I think, pretty important. I'm not a fan of the Nash here. I kind of get what it's going for. It's like monster hate, but we have the Alexanders. So let's go ahead and remove those. And this push always scares me to run as well. I do like the Ignis here. Zidane, we have the Tifa. I'm going to honor you. We're going to throw the Neo X Death in for funsies. I don't even think it's that bad, honestly. We have the potential to search it out when it's good and kind of make our opponent respect us. kind of do what I call the shell game, where you put down a threat your opponent has to answer, and while they answer that, you kind of set up whatever your actual game plan is. The 3 Mist Dragon, the 1 backup Breaking Heck. We have a split ratio on our Chocobos. So we have 4 deck slots left here after that. We don't have a lot of use for the crystals off of the CR, and he only buffs himself. I wonder if there's a better way to make use of that crystal if we ever actually did cast the CR. And if we go for a Roble with a pretty high backup count as well, that doesn't seem that bad. And then you have to see the CR in for the Roble to be good. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think he's okay at 1, so I'm going to leave him there for now. He does kind of pose a threat, and he's very large with Leo. Trying to think. Yeah, the Earth Summon was Titan, which is an amazing one. We're on just the 1 Typhon because we don't have a ton of wind backups. It's really just the Nordstalin Stiltskin combo that'll get us there. Let's bump the Stiltskin to 2, actually, while we're at it. And so we have 3 more slots for just kind of generic good stuff. Probably want it to be Earth if we can help it. And I probably want it to be an Earth forward specifically. So what do I want to play if I'm in Earth Wind? I'm looking for just an Earth forward. Seeing a lot of decent options here. We could just go with the 3 Tifa. That would give us another kind of out to aggro. I wouldn't mind seeing 1 copy of Lease to try to get over the party attack downside here. Actually, let's go ahead and bump Lease to 2. And let's look for... I kind of like... We're not on a Mira. I don't hate the idea of like a Mira Unsag line, but let's go ahead and just add like an Unsag Anashi. It's like 2 of that. Let's cut down 1 on like the Ignis. I think this is a little bit better just overall. I think our game plan is a little bit more simplified, and we kind of have a little more knowledge of what we're going for. Hopefully, I think that makes a lot of sense. Alright, moving right along, we have Ice by Sarah V. The deck name they gave it was Mono Water but Colder. They have been to a Materia Cup. Their note is that Umaro is in there to give them a second out to Fel Thanos, and this is for serious tourney play and practice. So this is one that I actually gave a lot of thought to before I went live with this. Let's go ahead and let's open up the editor real quick. So this is a Terra Shiva deck. Unfortunately, we don't have a ton of great options in Ice to recur summons, so we're going to have to be a little creative there. That's why you see this paired with Lightning a lot, actually, is for the Man in Black. I like the 3 Shinryu because we should be lower on forwards. We have kind of our Turk engine to kind of beat face in and kind of go from there. So I'm going to start with the backups. I really don't like seeing 3 of this lock because if you go lock, declaring lock, he can hit himself. So I'd like to put that to 1. We're using the Kefka to control the board state. I don't hate that. Armor, I think, makes a lot of sense here. I would actually swap the Edward. And the reason why, we're actually lacking removal pretty heavily here. This Edward would give us removal that we're kind of sorely lacking. Just given the way Terra tends to work, you tend to be very good at dull freezing things and locking things down, but not very good at actually removing them once they're dull frozen. So I like the 3 armor. I think the juggler, the idea here is we want a standard unit backup that we can play multiples of that cost 2. I think I would personally go for this instead, though. We have a lot of summon synergy, so just being able to just discard and tap to get a summon back could end up being... Whoa, where'd she go? Oh, there she is. Could just end up being really, really nice. And then let's go ahead and fill out the rest with just 2 copies of this Black Mage. We can run a slightly higher backup count. We still have to draw into them. But we have effectively a ton of unique names, right? To kind of get our Kefka online quickly. And we can go now lock calling backup and feel pretty good about it. For our summons, we're trying to enable this Shiva as best we can. Now the problem is... Oh, actually, this needs to be in the list probably as well. 1 copy of Tella for an EX burst. This is just an EX burst that gets back a summon. Let me just double check real quick. I'm going to type in ice summon. We can cancel summons, which is actually pretty good, but I'm going to focus mostly on just summon synergies. Fortunately, a lot of our really good summon stuff requires the Terra. Name. Okay, I think this looks like a decent starting place, right? We have our 14 backups. We should be able to draw enough different names to feel okay about that. Which that means we need to move on to the summons. We're on the full 3 Medius, Shiva. We're on 1, 4, 6, 7, 10, 13 Shivas. Let's try to raise that while also trying to get to a better set of them, right? This is one of the harder parts of tarot lists, or especially Shiva lists, is figuring out which Shivas we actually want. So we're definitely running 3 of this. This is the best Shiva in print currently. This one has the EX, but I mean, it's so low impact for the casting cost. I've tried running this one at like 2 before, and I've literally never cast it in my tarot list. I don't hate this Shiva, just to stall things down a little bit, especially at 1. We're on 3 of this Shiva, which is a really good one. 3 of this Shiva. I actually really like the old Opus 15 Shiva. Let's go ahead and put 3 of her in. I'm actually going to cut the Medius, and the reason why is Medius doesn't do anything Terra isn't doing for us already. Like, Medius is a very strong summon, but you want a very specific reason to be running her. And if Terra's already freezing everything every single turn anyway, we don't necessarily need more copies of that. So that should free up some room for this Shiva, which I think is just the next most playable one. It's got an EX as well, which is kind of nice. And that gets us up to 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 16 Shivas. I'm going to bump the Zalera up by 1 as well, just because Zalera is so good with Terra. And yeah, so I think that seems pretty decent. Let's go over to our forwards. So we have the Umara. We're afraid of Fel Thanos, and our only other out is the Shinryu. I sort of get that. Actually, now that I think about it, I know a backup we need to add. Let's just get rid of... Let's add 2 copies of this Sid. I'm going to go down 1 copy of Kefka. Go to 15 backups. I think that makes a little bit of sense. Alright, so let's take a look here. We're on the 3 Rude, 3 Reno, 2 Rufus, 3 Vincent. So again, I like Vincent, but we're already on the Terra. If we're trying to run the Shiva package like this, I don't know that Vincent's really advancing our game plan. So let's go ahead and slide those down a little bit. So we have a Rude and Reno to actually give us finishers. We have our Mono Ice backup line that should kind of ramp pretty quickly. We're going to be down on forward, so Shinryu is actually quite potent here. Let's try to get Rufus up to 3 copies. And then I have to cut one more card to make this work. I think the Edward right here is maybe the... We'll cut 1 copy of... this Shiva. I think this is a list that's going to give us the ability to use the Terra, but also is going to give us a lot of different options to ramp out and use our other cards to win the game. We could definitely add a copy of Ezael if we wanted to over here. Maybe actually cut one of the Sids for an Ezael might be actually better. There we go. We definitely have a game plan by going for this, I think, which I think is really what I'm looking for. We're going to ramp back up, so we're going to use Shinryu to kind of control the game state, wipe it. We're going to load our break zone up with Shivas, and then we're going to go Terra, lock the board state down while Rude, Reno, and Rufus win us the game. I think that there's some legs to this. This is what I would be considering, at least as a starting place. And 30 minutes, let's go a little bit longer. With maybe the hardest one that I was given. So, for some reason, y'all want me to fix Giga Graviton. So, this is Atticus. The deck name is Giga Graviton. Or Giga Graviton. They have Vintu Materia Cup. They want to compete seriously. They played this at locals. They felt it was too fragile. EX Burst hurt a lot when they don't have any protection for Sin. Feels like adjustments can be made to make it more controlling while still utilizing Yuna as the CP generator. Oh, this is a deck and a half. Okay. So, this is trying to use Giga Graviton to win the game. And it's doing so by using Yuna to try to generate a lot of CP. So I think the idea is you can go Yuna with your backups, get this Chocobo, cast the Chocobo, add Yuna, cast Yuna again, and you can kind of repeat that. And if you do that a couple times, like twice, and have targets the whole time, then you do have the ability to really build up a large hand for Sin. It's not quite an infinite, but it might as well be with kind of how we're looking to play. The problem is a lot of what you would go for traditional infinites have better win conditions than Sin. You have something like Ilua giving your whole field haste as you go for like a Black Waltz infinite. So something like this is really about the only way that I think Giga Graviton would have a lot of competitive merit. So looks like we've gone for just about every EX burst summon we can get our hands on, while also trying to go for wind. Let's see what we can do to edit this. So we have our Orions to try to protect our Sins. I'm going to be honest, I don't even like that here. I think that because of the way Sin works, in particular, we are going to need protection that does not come from a forward. I'm going to just assume that if Yuna gets amoted, the game is probably going to end for us. So, we're going to focus on a lot of wind here. There's not really any reason for like the Vraska or the Aiko here. We need wind because we want wind pips to pay for the Yuna. I think I'm going to go up to 3 buddy. I'm going to go to 2 brother. I don't think we need to source this in. We've got more than enough ways to get there if we want them. Let's go cut the Thornton down. So we're going to go for... Immediately, I'm going to add 2 copies of Riku. We're going to try to scale those wind backups as quickly as we can. So then from there... I almost want to go for a Chocobo line here. Yeah, let's do that. We're going to go for the Chocobo angle. Fat Chocobo. Into Chocolate, Chocobo. Like, we need those backups because we need our Sin to come from hand and be relatively successful for it. So I'm going to do that. And then lastly, I think it's Weaver. No, Weaver's the lightning one. Weather Worker is... What's the wind? Carpenter. We're going to go to 3 Carpenter as well. We're going to really get those backups down early and often. Right? No EXs in our backups, but that's fine. We're really just looking to go quickly here on these. Let's go to bump to a second Fat Chocobo while we're at it. Okay. That looks pretty decent. I'm okay with that so far. So that's... Let's see, we've gone for basically every EX that can draw us a card. Which I think makes a lot of sense. We need to develop card and hand advantage as we're playing. I'm going to wipe the summons. We're going to start from scratch here. So I'm going to try to make this as consistent as humanly possible. So we know to make the combo work, we need as many of this Chocobo as possible. Every other summon we're going to want an EX burst. And we're going to go from there. EX burst does not matter. The elements does not matter. The cost. Alright. So, let's see which of these can EX us into some form of draw. I think Remora is our best 6. It's also going to be our best water target, probably. Oh, actually, now that I think about it, we're going to want Leviathan 3. So we're going to want to put some of these Garnets back in the deck, which actually might be a reason to go water so we can run Loporrit. So let's undo these now that I think about it. We really want to get our Garnets. We're running like 20 Garnets. We need... Where is the boy? Cannot spell Loporrit at all, can I? Okay, so we're going to go 3 Loporrits. Buddy's fine, brother. Riku, we're going to get rid of those. I need some decent... Let's get a Marowlib for the EX. And I like the Thornton idea from earlier, just to get us another EX. It seems like a decent way of... Like, Thornton can get Buddy, can get Riku or Brother. Okay. And that's going to enable us to also run Levy 3. But I don't think this is a card we search. This is a card we're looking mostly to just cast an EX burst into as needed. Alright, let's go back to our EX burst summons that remain. And in Earth, let's go for Zeromus the Condemner. It's not the best one, but there's not going to be any other 7s. I know there are going to be other 2s that give us some form of card advantage. For Lightning, there's a Ramu that draws us a card at 3, I want to say it is. Yeah. So that covers our 3, our 6, and our 7 for our search targets. Fire would be Brynhildr. Let's double check that real quick. No, Belias. Belias is much better. It's the guaranteed draw we're looking for here. Brynhildr's not bad either. Let's split those. 2-2 on that. We need an ice summon still. Shivan does have the draw, and it costs 1, which is why we're on that. It's a pretty bad card, admittedly, but I think it's probably the only real option we have here. Ice, fire. Yeah, there's just not a better option for an ice summon with an EX burst. And then I need a wind summon to search that costs. So ice, fire, lightning, water, earth. So I need wind, summon, search. That I don't mind getting the cost 4 or more. Wind's going to be a little bit annoying here. Yeah, we don't have an EX burst summon I'm really happy to see. So we're going to go for non-EX for our other wind summon. Let's remove the EX burst icon. We're going to get 2 copies of Alexander. Okay, let's bump some of these down to 2. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that as well. One thing I would like to be able to do is run this Titan at 2. So we can go, once we do our Giga Graviton on our opponent's turn, we can cast Titan and just say it doesn't take, our Sin can't be broken this turn. Okay. So let's go down a little bit here. We have pain for Yuna. It's probably about correct. I really think we need some form of a defensive option. I think the only one we can effectively run is Genova Dreamweaver. And then, is there a water monster that would protect us? Yeah, Blue Goo is actually not terrible. It's probably something like this. We're still very, very high on engine, and the deck building cost for Yuna is extremely high. There's maybe an argument we should be playing a couple of extra water cards to help us get the Yunas and the Sins. But I think the Loporrits and the Leviathans give us a chance to put our Garnets back in deck, so we should be able to do multiple Yunas in a single turn while still building a hand size as we go. There's an argument to take this mono wind. I just don't trust the ability to keep the Garnets out of the deck while you're building backups quickly. So I think Loporrit's going to come in a lot of handy here to try to get these off-color summons back into the deck. And we still have 22 EXs. We're not amazing to swing into, but our opponent's not going to like doing it. So, yeah, I don't know that that's going to be super competitive, but that's maybe what I would do for that. I will stop it there. I've got a couple more lists, but I'll save those for the next time. Once again, if you want to join in on this series, feel free. Put your FFTX list in the description, fill out the form, and I hope to take a look at your decks next time.